U.S.-Iran conflict. Core reasons. How the conflict affects oil prices and global politics. The tension between the United States and Iran is rooted in decades of political, military, and ideological conflict. It isn't caused by one single event. It's a long chain of mistrust, strategic rivalry, and clashing interests. Here's a clear, grounded explanation of the major drivers behind the conflict, supported by the sources you triggered. Core reasons behind the U.S.-Iran conflict. 1. Nuclear program disputes. Iran's nuclear activities have long been a central point of contention. The U.S. fears Iran could develop nuclear weapons, while Iran insists its program is peaceful. Renewed nuclear brinkmanship and fortified Iranian nuclear sites have intensified U.S. concerns. 2. Breakdown of diplomacy. Diplomatic efforts have repeatedly stalled. The U.S. has pushed for broader negotiations, while Iran insists talks should focus only on its nuclear program. This mismatch in expectations has led to repeated breakdowns in talks. 3. Military posturing and escalation. The U.S. has increased its military presence in the Middle East, deploying what has been described as a massive armada near Iran. Such buildups raise the risk of miscalculation or intentional confrontation. 4. Regional power struggle. Iran seeks influence across the Middle East through alliances and proxy groups. The U.S. views many of these groups as destabilizing and hostile to American interests. This competition fuels ongoing tension and occasional clashes. 5. Political pressures and leadership decisions. U.S. leadership has at times taken a more confrontational stance, including ordering strikes and threatening further action. Iran's leadership, meanwhile, often frames resistance to U.S. pressure as essential for national survival. 6. Cycle of retaliation. Each side interprets the other's actions as aggressive, leading to a cycle of sanctions, threats, and military moves. Analysts note that past patterns, such as abandoned talks followed by military strikes, risk repeating.
How the conflict affects oil prices and global politics, and the role of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. The U.S.-Iran conflict doesn't stay confined to those two countries. It ripples outward, shaping oil prices, global alliances, and the strategic behavior of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. These states aren't just bystanders, they're deeply entangled in the rivalry. Let's take this in two parts. How the U.S.-Iran conflict affects oil prices and global politics. 1. Oil prices react to fear, not just supply. Even the threat of conflict in the Persian Gulf, where a huge share of the world's oil is shipped, can push prices up. Key reasons. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most important oil chokepoint. Iran has repeatedly threatened to disrupt shipping there. Markets react instantly to any sign of escalation. When tensions rise, traders price in risk. Insurance costs for tankers spike. Oil prices jump even if no physical supply is lost. When tensions ease, prices stabilize because the risk premium falls. This is why even a drone strike, a naval incident, or a sanctions announcement can move global markets. 2. Sanctions on Iran reduce global supply. U.S. sanctions limit Iran's ability to sell oil. Less supply, higher global prices. Countries like China sometimes buy Iranian oil quietly, but sanctions still reduce Iran's official exports. 3. Global politics polarize around the conflict. The U.S.-Iran rivalry forces other countries to choose sides or balance carefully. Effects include: NATO allies generally align with the U.S. China and Russia often support Iran economically and diplomatically. Middle Eastern states adjust their security strategies based on how aggressive the U.S. or Iran seems at any moment. The conflict becomes a geopolitical fault line that shapes alliances far beyond the Middle East. The role of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. These three countries are not neutral observers. Each has its own interests that shape the conflict. Israel. Israel sees Iran as its most dangerous adversary. Why? Iran funds Hezbollah in Lebanon and other groups hostile to Israel. Iran's nuclear program is viewed as an existential threat. Israel regularly conducts covert operations against Iranian nuclear sites and military targets. Israel's goals: prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons, limit Iranian influence in Syria and Lebanon, keep the U.S. firmly committed to containing Iran. Israel often pushes for a tougher U.S. stance, and its intelligence plays a major role in shaping American policy. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia and Iran are rivals for leadership of the Middle East. Their rivalry is religious, Sunni versus Shia leadership; political, monarchy versus revolutionary republic; strategic, control of the Gulf. Saudi interests: keep Iran weak and isolated, maintain U.S. military presence in the region, protect oil infrastructure from Iranian-backed groups. However, Saudi Arabia has recently explored diplomatic de-escalation with Iran, with China's mediation, partly because the Yemen war became costly. Saudi Arabia wants stability for its economic reforms. Still, Saudi-Iran competition remains a core driver of regional tension. Russia's relationship with Iran is strategic, not ideological. Why Russia benefits from the conflict: higher oil prices help Russia's economy. Iran's isolation pushes it closer to Moscow. Russia and Iran cooperate militarily in Syria. Iran supplies Russia with drones and military support. Russia's goals: keep Iran strong enough to challenge U.S. influence, prevent Iran from becoming too powerful or independent, use Iran as a partner to counterbalance Western pressure. Russia doesn't want a U.S.-Iran war, but it also doesn't want peace that brings Iran closer to the West. These interests overlap and collide, making the U.S.-Iran conflict not just bilateral, but multinational and deeply entangled. The world is living in a state of tense uncertainty, where fragile stability, volatile oil markets, and clashing regional powers keep global politics on edge and one misstep away from escalation. Prayer to the God of the nations, God of all nations and all creation, stretch out your hand over this troubled world. Where conflict rages, bring your peace. Where leaders are hardened, soften their hearts. Where fear drives nations, replace it with wisdom. Where innocent lives are threatened, place your protection. Break the cycle of violence, silence the drums of war. Guide the powerful toward justice and lift the powerless into safety. Let your light scatter the darkness of hatred, and let your truth expose every lie that fuels destruction. Heal the wounds of nations, restore what has been broken, and lead us into a future shaped by your mercy, not by our anger. God, intervene where humans have failed. Do what only you can do. Bring peace where peace seems impossible. Amen. Sources of the news: The New York Times, The Washington Post, The Wall Street Journal, BBC News, The Guardian, Financial Times, Al Jazeera, The Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel, Reuters, Associated Press, AP.
That spoke the world to life. You calm the storm. You bring hope to the night. Lion of Judah, mighty to save, Alpha and Omega, Lord over every age. Jesus, you heal the broken heart. You lift the weak and give strength to start. You conquer death, you rose victorious, yeah. Jesus, there's no one like you. All creation sings of you. You alone are faithful and true. Every knee bow, every tongue proclaims you. Oh, Jesus, you are holy. Jesus, you are mighty. King of kings, Lord of lords, forever. You are worthy, Jesus, you are glorious. All of heaven sings your name. Morning star, you shine with glory bright, yeah. Light of the world, you turn darkness to light. Savior, friend of the weak, your love is endless, your mercy speaks. Jesus, you bore the cross for me. You rose again, you set the captives free. Your blood is power, your name brings life, yeah. Jesus, there's no one like you. All creation sings of you. You alone are faithful and true. Every knee bows, Every tongue proclaims you. Jesus, you are holy. Jesus, you are mighty. King of kings, Lord of lords, forever you reign. Jesus, you are worthy. Jesus, you are glorious. All of heaven sings your name. Lion of Judah, Alpha, Omega, Prince of Peace, Redeemer of my soul. Jesus, you reign forever, ever. Every name, every throne, you are greater. Jesus, you reign forever. We lift your name, Jesus, forever. Jesus, you are holy. Jesus, you are mighty. King of kings, Lord of lords, forever you reign. Jesus, you are worthy. Jesus, you are glorious. All of heaven sings your name. Jesus, you are holy. Yeah.